Hey, I think we're live. I I think we're live now. Let's see. I'm just checking here. Just checking here. I kept getting some notifications. Just seeing. Um, Looks like I'm live. Sounds like I'm live. Let me just make sure I can pull it up here. Yep, it looks like I'm live. So good. There was I try the technology, right? And I'm very big on technology, but it kept getting notifications that it wasn't going live. So anyway, glad to see that it's live. Happy Thursday, folks. I'm Laura Baker, if you don't know who I am, and I'm with Everyday Horsemanship. I'm really thrilled to have you here in my group that's dedicated to achieving harmony and connection with your horse through Liberty training. As a coach, I have the privilege of working with individuals globally, helping them nurture bonds with their horses that transcend geographical boundaries all over the world. My coaching program has literally bridged the gap between owners and their horses, bringing them closer together through Liberty training in just 12 weeks or less. And I've even had some clients achieve their first Liberty Circle in as little as just 6 weeks. So I'm I've literally helped several people do this, and many people have used my program have reported a positive change in their horse after just a few days. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be walking you through what might be the most controversial topic within horse training. What I'm going to walk you through is how to motivate your horse to want to be with you at Liberty, and it does include treat rewards. So what if there's a more effective approach to training your horse at Liberty, and one that emphasizes positive reinforcement? Or what if you're using positive reinforcement, but not in a way that maximizes its effectiveness? So I'm just going to check here on the live video real quick and see. Yep, just make sure that we're still live. So in the past 2 weeks, I've taught actually another of my own two horses, two more of my horses, I should say, to circle me completely at Liberty. And I've also worked with several clients who are successfully building solid relationships with their horses through Liberty training, and they're enjoying the journey. All of this progress arises from a more scientific approach to teaching our horses, fostering an environment where they feel understood, heard, and attuned to. If you want to learn a strategy that fosters quicker learning with your horse and gets you from zero to Liberty in 12 weeks or less, using my popular method to make your horse into a willing partner, then go into the comments. Hi, Leah. I see and hear you. Good. Thank you. Thanks for putting that. Go into the comments and say Liberty, and I will reach out to you. So, again, if you want to learn from my popular method of using a scientific approach. I've been offering my virtual coaching program for the past year, and it started off as just one-on-one virtual coaching, and now it's expanded into so much more, an entire program called the Liberty Experience. And I've been practicing Liberty for years, and I've learned what works and what doesn't work when it comes to getting you the results you want. If you know someone who wants to learn more about Liberty, go ahead, tag them in this video. What I'm going to do is present to you, what I'm going to present to you, I should say, is a mainstay within my program. So get some notepads out, get your pens, because today's going to be a pretty big note taker. So I'm just going to take a quick drink here and see if anybody else is going to join. There's a few people here watching. So go in the comments right now and let me know if you're already using some sort of positive reinforcement. And if so, what are you using? And if you're not using it, that's fine, right? Not yet in the comments if you're not sure or you haven't incorporated any positive reinforcement into your training. If you don't use positive reinforcement, it's time. This is the future of training. And if you don't, I highly recommend you check it out. Listen to today's program. What we're going to talk about is how to motivate your horse and how to get your horse working with you without tension and as a willing partner and without running off all the time. And this isn't about bribing your horse or keeping treats in your pocket, as some people may mistakenly assume. This is about genuinely teaching your horse how to freaking love working with you, and you love working with them. Your horse loves to be with you. So go in the comments and let me know whether you're watching this now or you're watching this later as the replay. Let me know if you're currently using positive reinforcement or not. So let's, really it all boils down to this. It's what drives behavior. So, let's look at how training looks for a minute. Communicate. So I'm going to try to break this down for you a little bit more from the science aspect of it. So, and introduce you a little bit to the science here. Communication is the focus of antecedents. Antecedent is the scientific or psychological term. Or I should really say, the communication, the antecedent is the stimulus or the cue or the action that comes before the behavior. So when we think about a cue, that's our communication, but scientifically it's called an antecedent. Motivation comes after the behavior, which that might confuse some of you, but motivation really comes after the behavior. And it's something that we have to condition our horses to knowing what kind of payment they will get if they perform a desired behavior. So behavior is determined by its consequences. So behavior, so we have antecedent is the communication, which results in a behavior, and the behavior is determined by the consequences, which is the reinforcement of some sort, or what happens as a result of the behavior. So people have been conditioned to think consequences are bad. So consequences can be either reinforcing or punishing, and they're not always just a bad thing. It can be positive. They can be something that a horse gets a reward for. Just a release of pressure is a consequence to the behavior. And reinforcing consequences are those things that increase the frequency of the behavior they immediately follow. So I just look going over here. Jessica looks like yes, treats and also pets with the hands or rubs with the whip and verbal praise. So Jessica's using positive reinforcement. Yes. So to get desired behavior, it will require you to communicate in a consistent language using one of the tools in the toolbox that I go into full depth and usage within my full program. So yeah, Leah, okay, I click and train, but also pet or whip whip rub and pause more because she's getting to be too much of a mooch. So we can talk about that. We could talk about the mooch and the cookie monster, and that all has to do with desired behavior, undesired behavior. So we reward the behavior we want. We might have to ignore or correct the behavior we don't want. And that's all boils down to what I'm talking about today is your motivation, what's going to motivate the horse, and we're going to reward the behavior. So communication is, again, your antecedents, as I talked about. And if we ask our horse to move out into a liberty circle, that is our communication, that's our cue, that's our antecedent. So this is the techniques. The behavior is simply the behavior, and it's either desired or undesired, and motivation is what comes after the behavior, which either increases the frequency of the desired behavior or decreases the frequency of the desired behavior. So you're going to need to keep that in mind if your horse keeps giving you undesired behavior, because motivation is a reward that increases any behavior. It can be desired behavior or undesired behavior, for example, and it can increase it. So, for example, if your horse is mugging you, Leah, it sounds like your horse might be mugging you. If your horse is mugging you and you give a treat at that time, that would potentially increase that behavior, right? But if your horse is mugging you and you ignore that behavior and you wait for your horse to give you the desired behavior, which is not mugging you, and you reward that at that time by giving them a treat as soon as they don't give you mugging behavior, then your horse will learn a lot faster that, oh, to get my payment, I need to produce this type of behavior. So we call that treat receiving mode. And that's where I start every single horse that I work with, in treat receiving mode. And we've all heard the definition of insanity, right? Keep doing the same things and expecting a different result. And that just makes you insane. So if your horse is continually doing it, look and see how you might be contributing to that by not motivating them to give you the right behavior. So, so if you keep doing the same thing, keep getting the same behavior from your horse, it's time to do something different. And therefore, understanding how to reinforce the behavior you want is crucial to Liberty training. I can't say it enough. It's really what it boils down to. It's a foundational principle. We also talk about the greater the reinforcement, or the greater the reinforcing value of that motivator. And that means the greater the chances that your horse will see the reinforcing value and respond with whatever behavior has given it the reinforcement. So again, what I said is, if the horse is mugging you, well, sorry about listening. If you can hear my frog in the background, it's we have a like this front porch, enclosed porch seated area, and the cat walks in front of this motion frog and sets it off. So I'm known for everybody hearing my frog when I'm giving a virtual lesson. But anyway, I thought I shut that door, but I think the cat opened the door and decided to come out. But anyway, so talking about if your horse is giving you this behavior and you know, again, the greater the reinforcer, and we just say, we ask a horse to give us a behavior, and it's something that's been especially difficult for us to get. A specific behavior such as the lay down can be very difficult for some horses. We might increase the payment on that behavior, which means we're reinforcing or adding to the reinforcing value of what happens with that particular exercise. So it's really mathematical, and that will, we don't want to do it all the time, but that's going to help drive that behavior a little bit more, right? So we call those jackpot rewards when it comes to teaching horses. But or dogs get jackpot rewards as well, but any animal really can. But for today, I really want to focus on what motivates or drives a horse to give desired behavior, and what motivates the horse to want to learn faster and become that willing partner, right? So think about yourself for a minute. How many of you work for an employer? So if you can go in the comments below and type work, if you work for someone else, that will help give me a little bit of an idea of where your frame of reference is going to be in this analogy. But go in the comments and type work if you work for someone else. And now let me ask you this. If you work for someone else, would you work for your employer for free? Now, there are people that volunteer, but there's probably some motivating value there, right? With getting paid for work in some way, right? You get paid, you either pay, in turn, you pay for a mortgage with that, or pay for a vehicle so you can get to work, pay for your horse to have food. That's a motivator. When I'm paying to make sure that my horses are fed, I'm buying hay, that is all a motivator. I pay, on a skid steer. That's a motivator to go and work and get money to be able to do that. And if you own your own business, money is a motivator for you to bust it every single day, right? So Leah, you work for yourself and someone else, yeah. And so you've got it both ways, right? Because there's some motivator for you to put in those kinds of hours. And I'm an entrepreneur. I know what that's like when you work for yourself and you are busting it out there constantly. And entrepreneurs wear every single hat. So if you run a farm, board horses, whatever you do, you still have that motivator that you have a roof over your head, a place for your horse. All of that matters. And while money is considered a secondary motivator, it's still a motivator, right? It's still a motivator because you use that money, you use it to pay whatever bills you have to keep, the level or the lifestyle that you have at this point in time. So horses want something that's going to be in it for them as well. And sure, your horse may follow you around in the pasture like a puppy, and they might truly enjoy being with you. But if you ask your horse to give you let's just say, a complicated maneuver in that very same pasture, such as sending them out on a smaller liberty circle around you, would they stay every time? What about those people who can't even catch their horse? I have people that come to me and say, I can't catch my horse, but I want to do liberty with them. And I think liberty is going to help their horse. But, is there a greater motivator for the horse than what the owner is offering at that moment? You go out there with a halter and lead rope and your horse runs off. There's probably a greater motivator. And we call that a competing reinforcer or competing reinforcer. And so probably, yeah, there's some other motivator, and it's most likely based on past experiences that horse has had, such as you go out there with the halter and lead rope, you go and you put them to work right away. They get no motivating value from it, other than a release of pressure. There's no other payment for them. And so then they say, I'm going to run off today. I'm going to rehearse this undesired behavior. And so what happens is then they start rehearsal of behavior, whether it's desired or undesired, can also teach horses to do specific behavior. So if they keep rehearsing running off on you, that makes it harder. So yeah, but if a horse is running off and they're hiding behind some pals and some friends, and you're chasing them around and trying to get at them, and maybe you finally give up, and well, that's a reinforcer, right? If you've given up, but if you keep going and they've gotten some sort of reinforcer by hanging out with their buddies or pals, then that should tell you something, that they prefer to be with their buddies or pals than they do with you, because they see their buddy or pal as the leader. And so again, it's all boils down to what drives the horse to give you the desired behavior. Always look and see what is potentially driving this horse. When you problem solve, what is driving the horse to give you any kind of behavior, and then look and see what you have in your tools in the toolbox to see how you can solve that. So when it comes to desired behavior, we look at the motivating values first. So 1 + 1 = 2. So reinforcing consequences are those that increase the likelihood of a behavior occurring again in the future. And remember, I said that these could be the behaviors we want or the behaviors we don't want. But so it happens if you have reinforcing consequences. So if you have them added together, here's what happens. So let's just say you get a paycheck. Let's just say you make a salary of $50,000 a year, and you get benefits such as vacation pay, holiday pay, insurance. These payments or motivators collectively together would be much more appealing to you than if you were to just get a paycheck alone, right? So if you were evaluating two jobs, and one gave you $50,000 a year and the other one gave you $50,000 with holiday pay, vacation pay, insurance pay, you have to think twice about going to just $50,000, right? So the greater the reinforcing consequences, the greater the motivation. So if we're using, the ways that I use reinforcing consequences for motivating behavior are through positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, right? So in other words, we're going to give a treat reward and a release of pressure, and the two together increase the frequency of desired behaviors. So if I ask for a liberty circle, the horse gives me a liberty circle for the first time. I remove the stimulus, which is your antecedent, the cue, right? I'm going to remove that, putting my whips and arms down, and then it's going to release the pressure. When I put my arms down, it's going to release the pressure, and I'm going to give my horse that treat reward. And that's in its basic simplicity how it works. And we're going to talk a little bit about, a little bit more about that and how it goes. But if treats are given correctly, they are nothing more than a reinforcer that provides more motivation than the release of pressure by itself. release of pressure is the negative reinforcer, and it's just simply a motivating factor. But in and of itself, is it enough to motivate your horse in every situation? And for those people that don't use treats, if you deal with context shifts of your horse running off in other arenas or anything like that, that could be the game changer for you, because by building up that history of reinforcers, but also taking them to another location, having that context shift and really reinforcing them in those locations, that can also help by building those memories up for them, that hey, this is really not such a bad place. I'm not coming here just to work. So let's go back to the horse in the pasture, and your horse runs off on you to get their own release of pressure. Is release of pressure going to be enough to keep your horse? No. As a result, your horse actually can go if you're in the pasture and you're doing liberty with your horse and they run off, they can get their own negative reinforcement by leaving you. So there's a release of pressure there for a moment, right? And then they can start eating the grass, which will be positive reinforcement that they have self-reinforced themselves, right? Uh, so that, until you build up some sort of history of, hey, staying with me, this is a whole heck of a lot easier, reinforcing values. And this goes into a lot deeper conversation that I go into in my full program, but goes into a lot deeper conversation, the fact that you want your reinforcing values, you want to make it easier for them to get the rewards from you, the reinforcers from you, versus from getting it, self-reward. And what do I mean by that is when they take sea lions who that are working, tossing them dead fish that are already killed, that's an easier reinforcer than it is for them to go and hunt for a fish and get it themselves. So the same with the horse. It's an easier reinforcer for you to deliver a treat reward than it would be for the horse to run off on you and go to, and start grabbing food in the pasture. So so think about those things, and that's, and how that increases the frequency of any behavior, the desired behavior, if you start using that. So I know that's a lot to soak in, right? But in my full program, I break it all down, and I don't just talk about it in like a little 20-minute section and everything, but I do break it all down a little easier. But I just I want my horses to understand, I don't just provide treats, right? I don't just say that, hey, that was a good liberty circle, and just stop and give them a treat, right? I I want my horses to really understand what behavior they gave me that was desirable, before I can give them a treat. And so I do in my full program talk more about bridge cues, which is a conditioned cue that I give my horses that is marking the exact moment that they give me the desired behavior. And it really bridges that gap from when they gave me the desired behavior to the moment that I deliver the two reinforcers, the removal of the stimulus, the negative reinforcement, right? The removal of the pressure, and that drives behavior, and giving the treat reward. So it's really important to mark the behavior. The bridge cue is vital because with animals, unlike people, we can get a payment, and we can, from going to work, and then we can associate our work with our paycheck that might come a week or two later, right? And then the reward is then we pay our mortgage bill or whatever. But with animals, there has to be some level of immediacy, whether you're correcting behavior you don't want or rewarding behavior you do want. Immediacy or timing, as you may have heard, it's, feel, timing, and experience. Timing is part of what teaches the horse whether they did something you want or something you don't. And that's how they associate. It's associative learning. So when I give the bridge cue, this takes care of the immediacy that I need to be able to communicate to my horse that they just gave me the behavior I want. And then I reward the horse by releasing the pressure and then digging out the treat, which is delayed, right? We dig out that treat, and we can take our time because we've already given the bridge cue. we've reinforced in the past, we've conditioned the horse to know that when we give this terminal bridge cue, that this is what it means. And so I'm giving my horses two ways to reinforce their behavior, not just one. And both ways are tied together by that bridge cue. So that one single bridge cue. So I'm just going to take a drink here for a second and let you soak that in for a minute. Okay, so talking gets a little dry, and we have a lot of dry air around here these days. But anyway, so having multiple methods, hopefully you understand that. It's to motivate your horse. It means increasing your chances of getting the behavior you want. And it's scientifically proven to speed up the horse's learning process. So that's the other piece to that, is scientifically proven to speed up the horse's learning process when you're using multiple methods to motivate your horse. So I didn't, touch on some of the other methods to decrease undesired behavior, but that's just, kind of giving you an introduction in a way, but to understand this. But I think some people think that having treats in your pocket is a bribe. And it's true that you can teach a horse, a dog, or any animal maneuver using what's called luring as a way to get them to do something that they might not have done before, which is it's a technique. It's an operant conditioning technique, actually, to shape behavior. And the goal is always to fade the food used that's being used in a lure, fade it over time by introducing some sort of cue, and is also known as your antecedent of communication, right? So that's not bribing, nor is it bribing a horse to use treats as a motivator. When we're using it as a motivator, that's not bribing. So anyway, so this is essentially the two primary systems I use to motivate my horses to learn the desired behavior. I do also use corrections and ignoring undesired behavior, but I do discuss all of that, the schedules of reinforcement, how to motivate horses not to give us those undesired behaviors, how to motivate them to give them. I do discuss it in my full program. We talk about all the different operant conditioning techniques and how to use them, and all through that step-by-step program. So go in the comments below and let me know if you're planning on using treats now as a motivator in your horsemanship, if you weren't already. Just give me an idea. So, my overall system focuses on three things: communication, connection, and motivation. And for those of you that love the scientific terminology, it's known as antecedent, behavior, and consequence, or ABCs. We use it on people too, just so you know, antecedent, behavior, and consequence. So look it up, ABCs. So I want to pull up a comment posted on my personal page recently from one of my comments. And I'm just going to share my screen real quick here. And so give me just a hot second as I share my screen. Try to get over to, one moment, please. I think I'm going to have to go in here. I had it pulled up. It was here. Give me half a second as I pull it up. And then I'll share my screen here. Once I get this up here. Hope everybody's day is going well. All right, here we go. So I'm going to share my screen, pull it up. And I had to say, this wasn't planned. I didn't ask her to send this, so I'm just going to quickly read here what she said. Before I answer any questions, we're going to do a little Q&A. So this is unprovoked, right? And Kevin Ann says, I want to add a wonderful tidbit of news. A virtual Liberty lesson with Laura via Pivo is absolutely amazing and so worthwhile. Shiloh and I had our first one yesterday. Laura's right there in your ear. And she is a great teacher with such knowledge and conveys it so well. If anyone is considering, then strongly consider. You will be glad you did. Thank you, Laura. So number one, Kevin Ann, if you're watching, this was amazing. And thank you for setting this. And she's right. I'm right there in your ear when you use a pivot, and you can see exactly what you and your horse are doing. The result is that you are actually doing the work and building the confidence in your own ability to do the work. And what I do in my program is not only teach you the techniques. I have, over 70 videos in my program. I have lectures. I have there's actually weekly accountability assignments. But I teach you how to make the decisions with your horse when I'm not there to tell you what to do. I give you the tools in the toolbox to not only basically problem solve techniques on your own, as every horse is different, and each horse may learn a little bit differently as each person learns differently. So I give you the accountability and the systems you need to stay on track, to reach your goals with your horse. And I track every single client I have that comes into the program to ensure that they're hitting the goals that they have. And so Kevin Ann, I want to thank you so much for sharing this. And I know that there are people who think that they could see all the content I put out and do this all on their own. And they likely could. There's a lot of people that could. And it just might take you a year or two to figure it out on your own versus 6 to 12 weeks of help. And I know for me, I used to try to figure everything out on my own. I was worried about spending the money, but after paying for multiple online videos and such, and not only did it take me longer, it was more expensive to figure it all out. But now I don't try to figure it all out on my own. And my original route was the more expensive way to go. And hiring mentors and coaches have really made a huge difference of getting past the hurdles and growing in my liberty. So I'm going to get to the Q&A here in one moment. I just want to do a quick call to action for anyone who wants to book a free action call with me right now to see if my program is a good fit for you. So I'm going to take here and put this in the comments here in the live broadcast. Let me go back to it here, see if I can find it. I'm going to put this this link, and nope, that is not working. So let me try it this way. See if I can do this. I'm going to put this in the comments, and you can book a free 30-minute action call with me. There we go. And you can see if my program would be a good fit for you. And my program might be a good fit for you, or it might not be. There's not going to be any pressure with it. It's a very much a consultative process that really I want to make sure that I'm providing value throughout the process and really making sure it's right for you. And, you may have to do a few things differently than you've been doing, such as the treat rewards and how you do them, or just various aspects to my program like that. And I want to make sure that this is in place before I ask you to join my program, because my clients have a high success rate in a very short period of time. And I can only do that by enrolling the right clients into my program and making sure that they are the right clients at the right time. So, and it might not be the right time for you, or you might not, it just might not be for you. So click the link that I put in the comments and have that free call with me. And now I'm going to open it up for some Q&A here. So I'll give you a minute here while I take a drink, open it up for some Q&A. I did have someone reach out to me earlier with some Q&A. And so I'm going to answer these questions here. Anyway, so from Jessica, she asks, she's got about 3 different questions that I'm going to respond to. So right now at Liberty on the Ground, we are great at the walk and the trot. Any advice on moving up to the canter? And I have not asked her yet, but she is very connected with me at the walk and the trot. And so that's great to hear that you've come that far in your Liberty. So Yeah, so the answer is it depends on one of two factors. One is, does your horse canter when you ask it to on the lead line? If not, or if your horse doesn't stay in it or starts kicking back at you or those kinds of things, well, then we need to go back and make sure our horse knows how to canter on a circle, a smaller circle, right? Because horses don't instinctively know how to canter on a circle. They canter in straight lines, not on a circle. So we need to introduce that to them first. Second of all, when we are asking our horse to canter, we are adding pressure. So if they don't understand how to do it first with the lead rope on, you know, by adding that pressure, we want to eliminate the number of answers that they can give us by doing it with the lead rope on first and making sure that they can do it. Then once we are secure in that, and I do walk through this in my full program, but once we are secure that they understand what we're asking for and what that cue means, what the antecedent means, and we reward that behavior when they give it to us, then we're going to go down and break it down into those smaller approximations as we do with everything. So we want to initially just ask our horse for the canter, and I will do it where I am in more of a drawback position. So I'm drawing my horse first to go into the canter so that it just is one more step in that approximation to shape their behavior so that we don't get a rehearsal of that undesired behavior of them leaving us, right? So I'm going to do everything I can to try to break it down into smaller pieces. So I'm going to ask them for the canter, basically draw back, which I talk about in my full program, and I ask them to go into it. And as soon as they go into the canter, I mean, basically one step, I'm going to stop and I'm going to bridge that, offer a bridge, and I'm going to stop, reward my horse. So I'm going to bridge cue it. As soon as they go at the apex of that, I'm going to bridge it and then reward by releasing pressure and giving a treat. Then I'm going to ask for that for a couple of times and get that consistently before I move on to the next stage, which is asking for about a quarter of a circle, 3 steps, 4 steps, somewhere in there, depending on the size of your horse and their stride. And I'm going to try to get that. So once they go in, I'm going to get, I might even look for just 2 steps. Some horses need it broken down even further. Once I get that consistently, I'm just going to keep building up to that circle and getting them where they can do a full circle, maybe 2 circles around me in that drawback position before changing my body angle and being in what I call the liberty position, where we are essentially facing in the same direction. So that should help you to give you an idea. Always thinking about breaking those things down into smaller approximations. So I'm going to take a quick drink here, and then I'll go over her second question. So another thing she's working on is the bow, and she'd like to have some advice on leg placement. She's seen where they are asking to go down on one knee, and in one instance, and in another, extend a leg out forward. Do you have any suggestions or personal experiences with this? So the with the bow, so if you're talking about going bow with one leg versus bow with 2 legs, those are 2 completely different maneuvers or 2 completely different tricks. So I'm going to focus on the bow with the front leg right now, and that's where they're extending one leg out and one leg in, as you referred to. And to get that leg down, you really have to go into that bow almost before you can really go into the other bow. But some horses might offer the 2-legged bow automatically. But to get that leg down, there's 2 different operant conditioning techniques that you can use in addition to your negative reinforcement to get that. And number 1 is called manipulation. And then the second one is through target training. So target training, getting your horse to really reach for something with their knee and rewarding that. So using a target to get your horse down with that. So, and the first one, manipulation, might be, there's a couple of different ways for manipulating. You may have maybe a hobble that you're holding. I don't particularly like tying a horse's leg up at all. So that is not my methodology, but I will help a horse. They have to be able to hold their leg down, but I might use a hobble because it's softer on their leg and just hold it. But I'm not going to force them to keep that leg up. I'm just going to help them to understand what I'm looking for as we back into that bow. So we do have to have, when they learn to hold their leg up on their own, they have to be able to back into the bow. And sometimes that just helps them with that. Another way you can do it is through your holding with your own hand and just stepping back and teaching them how to back up into that bow. I have used both of those methods along with target training. Sometimes you need to have a combination of both depending on your horse to really get that knee down. And but I really like target training, getting them something to target with their knee. And so hopefully that helps you on that question. So if you have any clarifying questions on that one, go ahead and ask that. Lastly, the last question is, I want to ask her to lay down, but I don't want it to be scary. I have seen a couple different routes people take with this. One is quicker than the other, but I have no exposure with either. And I'm with you on that. I don't want it to be scary for my horses either. So, and when I teach my horses to lay down, I am not using ropes to force them to lay down. And that's usually where it becomes scary. I will teach a horse to lay down in the most natural way possible. And that is, if you watch a horse lay down in the pasture, you watch them out in the wild, I am adding cues to every single one of the steps that they take. Write down all the steps that they take to before they lay down. And I am going to add cues to every single one and start to teach my horse and show them how to lay down by putting all those steps together. And they learn that through, successive shaping, as well as when they are, you're reinforcing that behavior and through associations, associative learning. So, um, so I'm going to ask them, if you watch, they put their head down. The horse has to have its head down before it's going to go down. That's how they go down. And then they're going to bring their back legs in. They're going to bring their front legs or front leg up, one front leg up, and then they're going to drop down on that knee and bring the other knee up. And then they're going to, some horses might just flop over, but they're going to kind of from the back end, bring that back end down and over. So they're really so teaching your horse to bow is helpful. On one leg, teaching them to bow on two legs is also helpful. And it gets you a step closer into teaching them how to lay down without using ropes or force or anything like that. So those are important for that. So hopefully that answers your question. And again, I use all of the same methods, just using I'm going to add some pressure release and positive reward and bridge cues and really reinforce the behaviors that I want from the horse to get the horse to understand. So keeping their head down as they're bringing the hind legs in. So I'll use some target training with that. I might put a marker board underneath them to show them where to put the back legs, or just a piece of wood also helps to show them where I want the back legs. And where I want them. Because if you look at horses, they kind of need to go in that little bit of a circus elephant position, I call it, to be able to get that lay down. So anyway, see if there's any other questions here, if anybody has anything. Okay. So again, I mean, here's your next step. If you got value from this live video, imagine spending the next 12 weeks diving in deeper to the system and working directly with me. And you're welcome, Jessica. Yeah, you're welcome. Just, working directly with me and getting the transformation you want with your horse. And I've worked with several horse owners like you and trainers and have helped them get the relationships they want with their horse. And I believe in training horses and understanding the psychology of training, at a higher level that I can translate to you in a way you can understand. I've tried everything out there in the past and I've seen it all. And I've not seen a method that gets the results faster as it does while maintaining the mindfulness of the horse. And that's really important to me. If I've ever seen it, or if I ever do see it, then I'll pass it along to you. I'm all about what works best for the horse and the human combined. And so I'm Again, I dropped in the comments a link there, book a call with me, click on the link, get the time you want. And if you click on the time and it goes away, someone else has already booked that spot. But if you schedule a call with me, we'll just see if it's a good fit. And again, there's no hard sell about it. I'm not a hard sell person. I'm very passionate about what I'm doing. So if I can help you out with your horse, and I think I can, that's what's important to me. And I always have a lot of fun talking about liberty with everyone. And I know that a lot of people that I've had conversations with, they'll tell you the same thing, that I'm just really passionate about it. So thank you for joining me this afternoon. Have a great night, everyone, and take care.